Happiness does not define masculinity, and that is okay. Me, as a masculine man, don't need to be happy, don't necessarily need to be happy. Happiness is just an emotion. It comes and it goes, comes and it fades, and it's okay. A masculine man does not necessarily seek happiness. If you seek happiness, you are just a hedonistic person. Hedonistic person is a man who just wants to enjoy life and fulfill all the pleasure that comes with life. But unfortunately, when you are an hedonistic person, it is so easily to fall prey to those compulsive addiction, to those compulsive behaviors you have access to in our modern day. Because let's be real, we live in the golden age of craving. The abundance we have in life and the technology we have nowadays, we can have endless cravings, and it's not easy to not fall prey to and not give in to those temptations. Unfortunately, when we define happiness as just fulfilling our craving, the freedom to desire, we can so easily become more miserable in our life. And that misery can lead to things like depression, sadness, and even suicide. It's a real thing. You have to understand how it works. You seek happiness, so you give in to all those pleasures, whether it's Netflix, whether it's food, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's porn, or even simply scrolling, and so much more, obviously. But when you give in to all of this and you're not moderate about it, and you have multiple compulsion in your life, not only do you waste time, but you have to understand what it does to your brain. Your brain builds tolerance for all this compulsion. So it means that it will not feel as pleasurable. And you have to understand that it releases short term dopamine. Dopamine, in and of itself, is not a bad thing. Dopamine, generally speaking, for our ancestors, it comes through an effort to doing hard things. It's not something that is easily accessible. But nowadays, it is much more accessible because of the abundance we have, of the technology we have, and the affordability of some of those things. So we can easily spend a whole day and a whole night being flooded with cheap dopamine. It fries out dopamine receptors. We have two dopamine receptors. And the more we flood our minds with that cheap dopamine, the more desensitized your brain become, and the fewer those dopamine receptors will get. Not only they will be fewer in number, but they will be less efficient. So your brain compensates by releasing cortisol, the stress hormone. And that is why the more you give into your compulsion, the more the rest of your life will be dull, will be miserable, will be sad, will be riddled with anxiety, because that is how it works. The brain was not supposed to be flooded with cheap dopamine. That is when you become miserable, and you're a miserable companion, and you have a miserable life because you have given in way too much into these short-term pleasures. So you have to understand something that might sound contradictory. By following your happiness, which means giving into this pleasure, which means the freedom to desire, you are actually making yourself more miserable. However, if you go towards that freedom from desire by doing harder things, working out, having a mission, having a purpose, meditating, being more mindful, that is when you have a certain level of struggle, because life comes with struggle, whether it's the struggle and pain that comes by giving in to those compulsions that will make you miserable. But the difference here is the struggle that you get from doing harder. It is short-term pain, but it's long-term gratification and long-term happiness, if you will, and long-term peace, more important. That is when you can find more fulfillment in your life, by trying to find your purpose, by having a purpose, by giving in to that purpose, by going on that path, by letting go of resistance, by being committed, being disciplined, being consistent. Yes, you will have a bit of pain. Yes, you will have a bit of boredom. Yes, you will have a lot of solitude. But you can learn to enjoy all of these things. Maybe not at the beginning, but the more you do so, the more you can find fulfillment in not needing all those compulsive behavior you have on the other side. And the more proud you can be of yourself, and the more confident you can be that you understand that you don't need something external to fulfill. You just need your purpose, you need yourself, and you can be successful both internally and externally because you are not afraid to be alone. You are not afraid to be bored. You are not afraid of doing hard things. You are not afraid of discipline and consistency. And of course, sexual discipline. And that is why you find true happiness, that is peace. Because you can make peace with hard things. You can make peace with being happy. You can make peace with being sad. Because all those emotions are part of the range of human emotion we all go through as human beings. Peace is true happiness. But you need to let go of the need for that happiness that comes from fulfilling your desire. And don't forget, when we give in to all those compulsive behavior, we are not giving ourselves the time for solitude, to be alone with ourselves, to truly know who we are. So by giving it so much to those compulsions, you are living a life where you will never know who you truly are and you will never know what you're capable of. So beware and be aware. And myself, I also struggle with certain things. I've given up porn, I've given up alcohol, but I struggle with cigarettes every now and then. I smoke when I go out with my friends, but I'm trying to give up. I struggle with food. We all have our struggle, but we can find ways out of it. And it is not a linear process, it's a lifestyle. But it's good. It gives a meaning to you. The more you can be on the path of the freedom from desire, the more you'll be proud of yourself and the more you'll be confident in who you are and what you can accomplish in this. Thank you so much for listening. I am Sebastian. I'm here to help those of you who want to desexualize their mind, give up porn and other addictive compulsions and behaviors and addiction that I mentioned in this. And I'm sure I can. Thank you so much. Oh, also, I have a newsletter you can join. Thank you so much. And I'll see you guys. Everything is in the description box.